back to Adeline's Horror World. My name is Adeline. Of course, you guys already know that. We are finally done with the Friday the 13th series. Next month, which will have a Friday the 13th, I will be ranking the entire series from worst to best. But until then, why not review another darn franchise? Or wait, I think the right terminology is trilogy, not franchise. And I know it's kind of unexpected of me to review this trilogy considering some of the stuff that's in it, but we're reviewing the X trilogy by Ti West and Mia Goth because she technically produced all three movies. So let's go ahead and get started with it. Cut right to the chase. So X stars Mia Goth, Jenna Ortega, Brittany Snow, Martin Henderson, Scott Mescudi, or Kid Cudi, as a lot of people like to call him, Owen Campbell, Stephen Ure, or Ure, I don't know how you pronounce it, and is written, produced, and directed by Ti West. We all know this movie. It was a hidden surprise from A24. It's now known to be one of the most famous A24 movies and the start to one of the most famous horror movie trilogies of all time. In 1979, an adult film crew travels to a farmhouse in Texas to shoot their latest cinema project, which is, porn. Oh dear. I guess that's what they meant by adult film. What they are unaware of, however, is that the owners of this quaint little farmhouse are far from normal. They have to try and survive the night while this elderly couple attempts to pick them off one by one. So this movie was kind of a hidden surprise from A24, mainly considering that they didn't really do a whole lot of slasher movies. Slasher films were a rarity from the studio. They mainly did supernatural horror films or cult films or whatever. This movie is different from those like Hereditary and Midsommar. Note, I still haven't seen Midsommar. Please do not spoil it for me. And it has a more simplistic premise. It's not like Hereditary, a movie that was packed and filled to the brim with themes. Granted, I still love Hereditary. This movie has themes as well, like about sexuality and getting old and all that, but it's way more subtle about it. It's basically a 2020s Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but with actual character development of our main protagonists. Surprisingly, this movie had already been planned for 2 years, with Mia Goth, Jenna Ortega, and Scott Mescudi already casted way before anyone else, with Brittany Snow being casted in 2021, which was a big surprise. And now on to my favorite segment of these reviews, Adeline's Horror World Trivia Time. Did you know that Mia Goth played the elderly Pearl as well as Maxine and had to deal with over 10 hours of prosthetics and makeup work? Of course you freaking did. Everybody on planet Earth knows that already. Did you also know that production of this movie was held in New Zealand and not Texas? This seems to be happening a lot with the movies that take place in Texas. So, what are my thoughts on X? Of course I freaking love this movie. This is one of my favorite slasher movies ever. I'd have to be a freaking idiot to not love this movie. Like, this movie was a surprise. I watched it well over a year after it came out. I watched it in 2023, and I knew nothing about it. I literally did not know a thing about it except for the fact that Mia Goth played both Maxine and Pearl, which everybody should know by now. It was spoiled in the freaking credits. But I still love it. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and give it away. I love the entire trilogy to pieces. And let's go ahead and get into the reasons why. So first off, the atmosphere in this movie is off the charts. The atmosphere is intensely creepy and filled with suspense. And A24 just loves to do that a lot with their horror movies, and it works. Most of the time, from what I've heard. And it works just as well in this movie as it did for Hereditary, in my honest opinion. Next, every actor in this movie, from Jenna Ortega to Brittany Snow to Martin Henderson to Scott Mescudi, they're all phenomenal. All the performances are great. They all brought their A game, especially Mia Goth as elderly Pearl. Now, her as Maxine is not her greatest work, but she would greatly improve in Maxine, the third movie in this trilogy. But for what she does in this movie as the character of Maxine, she's fine. She's good. I'll give her that. But I do think she's better at Maxine. But her as elderly Pearl, she is wonderful. And oh boy, just wait until we review Pearl, because she is even better in that movie. Next, all of the characters, almost all of them anyway, are actually developed really well for a slasher movie, which is honestly this movie's biggest surprise. Almost all the characters are developed well, And you actually give a crap when most of them meet their end. When they meet their death at the end, you actually care and you're rooting for them not to die. But of course, this is a slasher movie, so of course, a lot of people gonna die. But for example, Bobby Lynn, played by Brittany Snow. You expect her to be the stereotypical blonde, mean girl that treats everybody on the film crew like crap. But as you see later in the film, she's actually kind of a sweetheart and is actually nice to them and is very accepting of them and gets along with them very well. Kind of made it sad when she died at the end. Also, yes, I am going to be spoiling the crap out of this movie, so be warned. Next, all of the deaths in this movie are phenomenal. They're gory as heck. They're done practically, thank God. They're done well, and some of them are shocking with how gory they are. Now, at least one of them sort of off screen, but it doesn't matter. It was still a shocking moment, and any other death that's on screen, it's done well, and I gotta give it to the makeup department for that. It was done very, very well. Next, speaking of the deaths, almost all of them are foreshadowed insanely well. Like, for example, Jackson, Scott Mescuddy's character, his death is hinted at because he tells Howard early on in the movie that he has had enough farmers pointing shotguns at him for his lifetime because he was in the war before the events of this movie. And that's exactly what happens to him at the end. And then you have Bobby Lynn. Her death is hinted at when she walks out of the film studio at the beginning of the film, and you see a painting of an alligator about to eat a lady up. Can you guess what happens to her later? That, and you have RJ's death when he says, well, a film can't just change halfway through, and Jenna's like, well, what about in Psycho? You love that movie. And he's like, well, that was a MacGuffin to create suspense. And that's exactly what happens in this movie. They change the plot halfway through and it works really well. And then you have Jenna, who's known for being the quiet one of the group. She gets herself killed for being way too loud. And you think she's going to be the generic final girl archetype, but we all know how that goes, of course. Next, Pearl is an insanely eerie villain alongside her husband Howard. Of course, Howard is not as creepy as she is. Pearl is messed up. Howard is at least just a tad bit normal than Pearl is, but Pearl, whoo boy, that girl needs to be in a padded cell. Now, the prequel, her origin story in that movie, makes her motives make a lot more sense, such as why she has such an immense hatred for Bobby Lynn right before her death scene, hence the line, you know I don't like blondes. I will provide the context when I get to the review of Pearl. And I'm going to say it yet again, Mia Goth is wonderful as the character, but she is even better in Pearl. The movie, I mean, the movie Pearl, about the character Pearl, you get it, okay? Next, this one's going to be kind of a brief positive. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre vibes in this movie are delivered with love and respect. It basically is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but with a creepy old couple instead of a cannibalistic family. And with porn. And finally, I know this is going to be really shocking for me to say, the sex and the nudity in this movie actually serve a purpose. I finally found one! Like, it's not gratuitous, it isn't just done for TNA, it actually has a reason, and the reason is very simple. It's about an adult film crew going to a farmhouse to shoot a porno. That's all the reason you really need, and if your sex nudity actually serves a purpose in the story and the plot, I don't really mind it all that much, and I didn't really mind it here, and it isn't a negative for once. Now moving on to my mixed elements, I only have one. After that, I do not have a single negative. The ending of the movie, the third act, is a little rushed and sort of anticlimactic. Sure, it's satisfying with what you get, but I think it could have gone on just a little longer, maybe a few more minutes. That's just a personal preference of mine. That's really all I'm going to say about that. I think it was just a bit too short. If the ending had been slightly longer, this movie would have been perfect for me. Overall, guys, X is a tremendous A24 movie that, while not my favorite of the studio, that would go to Hereditary, but then again, I need to see more A24 films in the future. It does an amazing job creating a tense atmosphere, giving you likable characters that you actually root for and don't want to see die. gory and amazing kills and sex with a purpose, along with really creepy villains. Some of the creepiest villains I've seen in a long time. If you're new to the genre, please, I beg you, seek this movie out. Especially if you've never seen an A24 movie in your life. I highly recommend this one. Just please be sure you're old enough to watch it before you do, because of all the stuff you are going to see in the film. Because let me warn you, there is a ton of nudity and sex in this movie, even if most of it is not real. Or, okay, when I say not real, like, they're just filming it in the movie. You get what I'm talking about, but please make sure you're old enough to watch it. I'm going to give X by Ti West an A. So what do you guys think of X? Let me know in the comments below. Do you love this movie? Do you like this movie? Do you surprisingly hate this movie? Or do you think it's just in the middle for you in terms of your thoughts? Let me know and we can debate about it in the replies below. So next week, be looking forward to my review of Pearl, the infamous prequel that was secretly filmed while they also filmed X, which honestly surprised me. Did not know they filmed this at the exact same time. Sounds like another horror movie franchise. Can't think of the name. So anyways, yeah, be looking forward to my review of Pearl next week. It's going to be a ton of fun filming that review and presenting it to you guys. If you like this video, be sure to hit the like button, click the subscribe button, and switch your notifications on so you can get notifications for all future videos and content on this channel. But if you don't want to like the video and if you don't want to subscribe, that is perfectly fine as well. So anyways, guys, I guess that's pretty much it. So anyways, I'm Adeline. This is Adeline's Horror World. Of course, you guys already know that. I love all you guys to death. And until next time. So X stars Mia Goth, Jenna Ortega, Brittany Snow, Martin Henderson, Scott Mescudi. Dang it! This movie does have themes, but it's way more subtle about it. It's basically a 2020s... Can I please get it out? I'm tired of messing up. The atmosphere in this movie is off the charts. It has